everyone, I'm Jess Kutch. I co-founded an organization called coworker.org, and coworker.org is creating a labor movement for the 21st century, one that is platform-based, decentralized, truly global, and open to all working people. And you may not realize it yet, but you're all part of this labor movement. If you work for a living, you have a stake in working people having power and agency over designing their work lives. So I'll step back and start with a crash course in early labor history, because the people of this era were actually tinkering with a lot of the same challenges that we face in this next economy. To start with, you're all going to spend 1/3 of your adult waking life at work. Some of you probably more than that, but most human beings spend 1/3 of their adult waking lives at work. And that means that work has a significant impact on human well-being. And it's something that we all need to care about. And in the 19th and 20th century, some of the brightest minds of that day, of that time, were tackling this problem head on. You know, labor organizers of that time were social entrepreneurs. They were creating solutions that had never before existed on the planet, pooling worker wealth to create solutions. And they had big ideas too. You know, in the 1800s, labor organizations came up with this idea of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and how it should exist so that there's infrastructure and data to create policies that protect workers as industrialization was taking hold. And they built awesome, cool things too, like cooperative apartments in the heart of Manhattan so that union members could have affordable housing. They didn't live in fear of getting kicked out when the rent got too high. They built summer resorts in the Poconos so that garment workers could take their families to the forest and commune with nature and escape the oppressive New York City summers. So this was a time of incredible innovation, and these solutions are something that I think needs to be remembered. But times have changed. And it won't be a surprise to most in this room that trade union membership, which is how most of us think of the labor movement, is in decline. It's in fact at its lowest point in 100 years. And just as a reference, 100 years ago, people were being murdered for wanting to join a union. We are at Ludlow massacre levels of labor union participation. So the times are a little bleak. Meanwhile, a lot of the wonderful solutions that trade unions created are decaying. This is a photo of the garment workers' summer resort in the Poconos, which was shuttered in 1989, and now nature is reclaiming it. And sort of the images of that are reflective of what's taking place to these beloved institutions. Meanwhile, the economy is going through cataclysmic change, and I know that's been talked about a little bit here at Food Camp, but precarity is rising throughout the world. Wages are stagnant. The changes we're seeing in our economy haven't been seen since the Industrial Revolution took place. And it's clear that new solutions need to emerge. But I'm ultimately optimistic because I see signals in the world right now that new models are possible. And there's one thing I'm particularly excited about that I'll talk about quickly today. Connectivity, frictionless connectivity. So never before in human history has it been possible for workers of the same organization, or now platforms, to actually communicate and share information and coordinate in real time across any distance, and even through language barriers. And that's incredibly exciting. We're seeing this on coworker.org, where we're growing communities of workers inside major corporations throughout the world. We've got nearly 10% of Starbucks' workforce. These people are advancing solutions on a wide range of issues. And once you start to get that scale, that density inside particular organizations, the workers can start to create new solutions for solving problems in their particular workplace. We're prototyping one example of that right now, which is data. How can we make it easier for workers to share data, to aggregate that data, and understand what's happening in their workplace? And we did this with Starbucks workers, helping them to understand, hey, this promise that Starbucks made to fix scheduling, it doesn't seem to be happening in my workplace. Is it happening elsewhere? And they, in fact, proved that it was, and Starbucks had to address the issue. We're also looking at the potential of demographic information. When we pair worker data with demographic information like our Uber drivers, can we start to get a better picture of what's happening to this workforce? And then there's the qualitative data, the stories about what people are experiencing in their workplace every day that aren't part of the business stories and how we think about corporate performance, but maybe they should be. Maybe this should be a way that we think about how this employer is behaving. So the number in my mind is 10%. 10% of the workforce of every Fortune 500 company in the world. What's possible when we get to that? What I do know is that what it took the labor movement 100 years to accomplish in the 19th and 20th century should take us less than 10. And I encourage everyone here, you're all workers, and so to be thinking about workplace democracy and how workers can pool their wealth to build power for each other that is independent so that they can have security in this next economy. Thanks.